In Southampton, rapist David Tiley is a case in point. He was classed a level 1 sex offender. What he'd do next would not appear in the government statistics. David Tiley had been living in the community as a registered sex offender for 6 years, but he couldn't be trusted. 3 times he was sent back to prison for lying to the police about where he was living. On his release, he was classified a medium risk, and Hampshire police only had to visit him twice a year. When Tiley moved in with his girlfriend Susan Howe, the police warned her about his violent past. 4 months later, he stabbed Susan to death in a vicious attack and hid her body in the flat. Susan received regular visits from care workers to her home. 8 days later, one of her carers, Sarah Merritt, innocently knocked at the door. And what about this one, the wedding one?
Yeah.
Tiley murdered Sarah despite being on the MAPA scheme designed to protect the public.
This was the last picture she ever had taken of her, a couple of days before she died, that was.
He held Sarah at knife point, bound and gagged her, then left her in the flat as he went out to use her stolen cash card. When he returned, he raped and murdered her. Her husband Peter cannot understand the system that failed Sarah and left their 2 children without their mum.
Anybody would want to be with their loved ones in a time of need, and she had nobody. She would have been completely scared, not a soul to help her, nobody to hear her calls or anything. She was at the mercy of, obviously what we find out afterwards, a really nasty sex offender, and she suffered his full wrath. And to think he was one of thousands, it's monitored on a system to protect us from this sort of thing. Although they say he's monitored, he wasn't monitored enough to stop something as serious as what he's done. So I can't see how it worked.
The government makes no secret of the fact that 79 serious further offences were committed by level 2 and 3 offenders last year, but they have never released figures for level 1 offenders like Sonics and Tiley, even though they are counted. Cases like that of Michael Clark, a violent rapist who sexually assaulted and murdered his neighbour's 14-year-old daughter in her own home. Sex offender Peter Vosey, who snatched a 6-year-old girl from her bath before raping and dumping her naked in the street. Craig Bennett, a convicted paedophile who raped and violently assaulted a 12-year-old boy in a field after persuading him to look for his dog. All level 1 offenders the government hasn't told us about. Why wouldn't they want us to know about level 1 offenders?
I can only think that they're not published in full because the government would rather we didn't know.
Why wouldn't they want us to know?
I think the government wouldn't want the figures to be known widely because they could be seen as critical of government.
Under the Freedom of Information Act, we asked every police and probation area how many serious further offences were committed by level 1 offenders last year. Just over half responded, revealing there were 47 serious crimes by sex offenders and a further 78 by violent offenders. That's 125 serious further offences the government has kept out of the public eye, and that doesn't include crimes in areas that decline to give their figures. So why don't the government publish all the numbers?
We do publish figures for all serious further offenders.
For level 1s, level 2s and level 3s, are you sure?
We publish figures for the active level 2 and level 3 management of offences, and we have general figures for further offenders.
You see, I just wonder whether the government are being honest with the public, because they tell us about the 79 offences committed by levels 2 and 3, but they don't tell us about the 125 offences committed by level 1s that we found out about, and that's what the public need to know, the total figure, and not just a slice of it.
The figures are designed to put some information into the public domain about MAPA arrangements and how well they've succeeded over the year in reducing risk to the public. And serious further offences is one way of judging that.
The government, the Ministry of Justice, said they were going to publish the Level 1 figures this year but decided not to. So the reasons for not publishing this year and deciding to publish next year is?
It's making sure they're as accurate as they need to be in order to be official statistics.
Despite the fact they don't yet publish all the data, the government claims MAPA is a success, reducing the number of serious further offences committed by dangerous offenders coming out of prison. The reality is, it will not stop an offender if they're determined to commit further crimes. What does the monitoring do? Because you're not seen every day. So the time between each visit by the team.
I don't know sometimes. I could go out and be followed at any time, but I keep myself safe. Wherever I go, I steer clear of any children.
But that's really difficult to do. So
it's certain times of the day I'll go out and do my shopping at the night time, and I know there's not going to be any children around. Like 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Do you accept that, despite the fact that you're being monitored, if you wanted to go on to commit another offence without anybody being aware, you could?
It's a possibility, yes.
The MAPA system offers some reassurance that we are protected, but it is limited. For the Bonomo family, it failed terribly. They are now comforted by letters of support. This one's from Devon, this one's from Surrey.
We know your grief and anguish will never end. You have suffered what we as parents know would be the worst tragedy that any parent can have. I enclose a photocopy of a letter I received after writing to Jack Straw. My husband, Bobby, and myself thought it may be of some help with your case against the British government.
Now Laurent Bonomo's father is taking the British government to court to seek justice for their son and prevent our criminal justice system making the same errors again.
I can't accept this mistake. The consequence of the mistake is that my son is dead, and it's not only a mistake. I can't accept that he only was at the bad moment in the wrong place. It's not a mistake. It's horrible. I can't accept.
Raphael Rowe reporting there on the limitations of the MAPA system. And if you go online, you can have a look at the true picture of reoffending in some detail right across Britain, as revealed by our Freedom of Information requests. It's bbc.co.uk/panorama. Next week, after baby P and other failures,
the little girl is covered in bruises.
Panorama goes on the front line with emergency child protection officers.
You've never seen anything like it. The mating contest of a humpback whale. A TV first on Life next on BBC One. With an estimated $37 billion, Evan Davis meets the world's greatest moneymaker on 2, while BBC 4 tells the story of London's bright young things in the 1920s, glamour's golden age.